Welcome to the second part about .NET configuration. Today it's going to be about to use configuration sources which are not on your machine but instead are in Azure. We will cover a lot of stuff like what kind of sources are there. So it's mainly Key Vault, Azure Key Vault, and Azure App Configuration. Also, I will cover some best practices that I use in my projects when it comes to, hey, I have an app configuration when and if I run in Azure. But if I run locally, I will not have it. So I explain why, what the alternative is. The user secrets is alternative. So why is that and how to use it and stuff like that. And hopefully we end up with a working sample that you can just clone from GitHub as well. Links will be in the description as well as for the first part of the video. So with that, let's hop over and dive right into it. So my screen here. And what I'm going to do now, I have my solution opened. I reworked it a little bit from or refactored this a little bit from the last time you saw it, but mainly the thing is you just do it. Then you go to /scalar, which we use as our test UI, and then you can simply try out, I think this was the test request, right? It gives out some configuration values which are coming from different sources. So starting with the default is, if I look into Visual Studio, we have some app setting stuff here, and then we override it for development. So my DB is overridden and my app setting C and whatsoever. We have a model for my app settings. So this is represented by this model with some properties here. So it says time span, B and C property. And then we also have shown that in the launch settings, we can say foo and set it to A. Is it visible here? Foo is not set to A, but we totally can see that. And then we also have, I think here in that project source, and then what was it? Sample API. We can .NET user secrets list. And then we can see that the connection string is set to local pass whatever secret. Is that reflected here? Yes, it is. This is the value there it comes from. And I explained all of that in the last part, so hop over there if you're interested. Cool. So I leave that open and I will clear that console and stop my project. So what I also did in the meantime from last time, I created, and I will show that in VS Code here, I created an infrastructure folder. So I moved everything to the source folder here, and then I created an infrastructure folder, which contains a little README, which explains, so you can use that README to understand how to use this. And I used here a main Bicep, which in Bicep is defining my resources, and it calls like two modules, like for deploying the resources and the role assignments. We will talk about this in a second. And then we have those resources. What we actually do is we deploy a Key Vault, an app config, an app service plan, and a web app on that app service plan. So this is like the minimal configuration. In case you're wondering, so what you would need is an Azure subscription, of course. If you're going for this series, if you want to follow on this, not only on screen, but do it for yourself, you would need a working Azure subscription, and you need to have contributor role assignment on that subscription. Anyways, so the web app is deployed in, I think it was, where is that? Let me go to resources. And the service plan actually is a free service plan. So the service plan itself should not cost any money on that subscription. It's very limited, but it's sufficient for us. The app configuration is in standard mode, which will deploy. We will talk about what this is. And I had a video about that. I will probably link that as well, about Azure App Configuration. And the Key Vault also is in standard A SKU, which means it shouldn't cost that much money. But, you know, to be sure, after the demo, you should totally delete those resources so that you only pay it for the time you tried it out. So actually what I'm going to do first is I want to show you how easily it should be for you to deploy that. I hope it works. Let's see. So let's go to infrastructure, to that folder. So you could do totally the same. And then what you need to be in, you need to be in a PowerShell session, PowerShell 7 or newer. I think there's nothing newer, but anyways, PowerShell, so the new PowerShell. And then I prepped the deploy PowerShell script. If you want to change something like the name of the deployment or whatever, you can totally do that. But besides of that, you have the option to run deploy PS1 And then you could run a what if command, and what if probably will end up with a warning, which is due to the tooling, which is very odd and not good. Let me just make it a little bit nicer for you guys to have multi-line PowerShell in place because it's better readable. I just saw that. So that is this. So what I'm doing, I give you the option to have this, and currently I don't have the authorization to do that. So I will quickly pin myself. Let me quickly do that for 8 hours. Where am I? So I have an automation for that. It should work. Maybe a login screen comes up. Let's see. To pin myself on my company account. Let us wait there. I will pause the video real quick while this is doing it. Actually, I decided, so while this is running, why not share this with you? So what I did is I opened a terminal, and what I need is I need elevated rights, right? So what we have in place is we have a certain repository here. This is called Enterprise because we at my company, we name everything which is bound to us by Star Trek names. So the Enterprise project is like our everything related to hub and spoke and stuff like that is here. So what I just called is a module that I have a module called devdir-caf. So my company is named devdir, so that's my module. And it has a bunch of functions I can call, and one of them is start-caf PIM group. So what this is it's by default getting my default settings, and it's detecting who I am and all that stuff, which is pretty awesome and nobody likes to do. And when I execute this command, I can, if it's allowed, for 8 hours, elevate myself to be not in the global admin or something like that, but it brings me into a certain security group in Entra ID, which basically is nothing else than going to PIM in the portal and say my roles and then select the group roles. And this is doing it just silently in the background for me. And maybe, just maybe, it just works. Probably not. We will see. So I repeat the deployment here. It looks like it does not. So what needs to be done? I need to disconnect myself here. I need to clear the AZ context. Yes, clear it. And then I need to connect AZ account again to my tenant. And I'm greeted with my login experience. So maybe this works. Nobody knows. So let's try it again to deploy now. Because I forgot to tell you that, of course, it's in the README. You need to connect to your AZ account. I think it was here. In order to deploy, push git, what do you need to do? Execute, here it is. So you need to execute this, is exactly what I just did, in order to ensure that your current PowerShell context is connected to the subscription that you want to do. So here we go. Now I can do it. He is detecting automatically that he is about to create this resource group in that subscription. Inside of that resource group, he's about to create an app configuration store, app CS, a Key Vault, an app service plan, and a web app prefix with API. And then he has some problems here because turns out that I also deploy role assignments, which I will come to in a second after this deployment ran. And this is giving him a hard time to analyze what this is. He cannot do the what if on role assignments. So what you simply need to do is just do it without what if. And I will let this run, and I will come back to you after this has finished. So it turned out I had to do a lot of stuff because both of those resources, like the Key Vault and the app configuration I showed you before, had this property not set to false, which I now did. So if you do it, you have no problems, at least not the problems that I had. So what this means is I had to remove the purge protected Key Vault and Azure App Configuration before I could deploy it again. So it's now disabled. So you guys don't have any problem. So this is now deployed. And let's look into Azure how this looks. So what the whole Bicep does, it deploys this resource group for you. And inside of that resource group, what's interesting is 4 resources. That's exactly what I showed you in the Bicep. So those 4 resources, the most interesting one is the API later, but what we need to concentrate on is this and that. So we will start with the Key Vault, which is one option to just simply store secrets. So what's interesting about that is I told you that I also in my Bicep deployed role assignments. It should be deployed. Let's see. So when you look into, and I deployed them on resource group level. So I assigned them to the resource group, the role assignments, so that whatever I wanted to define it is valid on this level and then gets inherited down. So let's go to access control. And now let's check the access of managed identity. And this should be, the first managed identity is the app service I want to check. So here's my app service. And I deployed it in a way that the app service itself, so the resource, retrieves an identity in Azure. So as long as it lives, this is like the service principal which runs the app service. So whatever you run from in that web service, like accessing with .NET from your app, the Key Vault or the app configuration, if you want to, you can use this identity in order to authorize yourself against the resource you want to access in Azure, which is a nice way to do it. So let's go here and let's check. And this is what I did. Those are the 2 role assignments on resource group level that I gave to the API itself, so the web app. So it has app configuration data reader, right? And this is a specific role which was only viewed at by the app configuration resource, and it has Key Vault secrets user, which means that it can read but not change Key Vault secrets on any Key Vault inside of that resource group. The same for the app configuration. So that's what I did for you. So those are the both role assignments here, and it works, and you can delete and redeploy this at any time, basically. Okay, cool. So that now brings us to the point where we can actually talk about what is a Key Vault. Let's start here and how can we use it in our application. Okay, the Key Vault itself is a very, very secure way to store sensitive information of 3 different types, if you want, to a store in Azure, which usually is better than any usually available on-prem options that you can think of. So let's make a demo out of this. So go to secrets here and then generate a secret, and you can name it, the secret, whatever you want. My super secret value. Secret value. This is my key with which I can access the secret. And then I just type in something, some password, and I create a secret. So here we go. That is it. What I can do now, for instance, with PowerShell, and I always mess it up, but you know, in PowerShell, you can say, you know what, show me the AZ Key Vault that you find. So here we go. We see there's, this is not my Key Vault. I'm probably in the wrong thing. Connect AZ account here. Please go to the right subscription and get AZ Key Vault this. And now we have this Key Vault. We have 2 Key Vaults. We ignore the lower one. Here we go. So what I then can do is get AZ Key Vault vault name, get AZ Key Vault secret. There's this command. You just give it the vault name, which is this thing. And then you see a list of secrets. But you can also say, and this is my PowerShell not giving me sensitive history, which is good, but something unnerving. And then we have a secret, which is, what was our name? My super secret value. This is our secret. So here we go. Now we tell PowerShell, let me remove the background here so that we have not so much noise. So here we go. So now he says, probably secret name. Probably I messed up here the PowerShell a little bit. Let me do this. Secret. What is it? Get Azure. Oh, it's probably only name. The name of the secret. So here we go. Now we have a secret, but I still cannot see the value. And then what I usually need to do if I'm not, so I store this in a variable, let's say. It's possible. Here we go. And now SAC is here. Now I can access all the values of that. And what I also can do is, I think I can say, where was that? As plain text, which is pretty dangerous. You should never do that just like that. But let's say I want to do that. And here we go. I have the secret value. So this is how I can locally use something which is stored in a Key Vault. And if I have the right to access it So if I have role-based access control currently to access this, this is a super cool way to, for instance, never send a password over email or something again to your coworker, but instead both of you should share Key Vault, and then just, this is it, you can share secrets with that. Also interesting is, on Key Vault, that if I click on that and I create a new version and I say, you know what, my secret changed. Whatever, I mistyped. So now I have a new version enabled. And now what happens when I do that command again? So that was my first command with this password, and now let's use this one, and now I have a better password, which is a strange name, but anyway. So, but you also can access the older version here if you know the version ID, so you can access this as well. So it's a pretty mighty store, and it even has the option to have like a paper bin, which is purge protection, which I switched off. But let's say I want to get rid of the secret here. So I did this, that's it, no longer secret there. Let's see if this is true. And he says, sorry, there's no secret. So I can't find anyway. So it's not bad, you can use that. And it turns out that Microsoft also thought that this is not a bad idea and thought about, you know what, maybe we should leverage a NuGet package, or we should bring out a NuGet package which allows you in .NET to actually do exactly that. Okay, and that is what we want to explore first. It has some caveats, but bear with me. Okay, so what you also, final words to the Key Vault, which is very interesting if you didn't know, Key Vault also allows you to store certificates in. There are a whole bunch of, this is a whole bunch video on itself how to do that. But if you do it correctly, you could have technologies like automatic rollover when it expires and stuff like that, and you change it here, change this here, then it can change for your website automatically or wherever you want to use it. And there's a whole bunch of stuff like settings, and maybe I should make a video on Key Vault and how to use it and how we use it. If you're interested in that, leave a comment. Otherwise, I will proceed. Okay, cool. So with that in place, let's hop over. And now we're done with our infrastructure or Azure stuff. So we are concentrating now on how to use this in our solution. So what we will do is manage NuGet packages. And then the naive way is, what happens if we search for Key Vault? So as you can see, pretty much on top, because it's downloaded a lot of times, is, hey, if you want to access Azure Security Key Vault secrets, I think it's the right package, let's see, then you can do that. But there's another package, if you look a little bit down there, which also comes up, which is the configuration secrets, Azure Extensions, ASP.NET configuration secrets. So it allows you to string from Key Vault secrets. So that's actually what we want. We don't want to access the resource itself. We want to do something else. And let me see in the package details if this uses, see, this package actually references this package in order to access the secrets, but it does exactly what we want. We don't want to upload secrets or stuff like that. We want this package to connect us, our configuration system, our iConfiguration, to Key Vault as an additional source for values. So let's install that. And let's see. I think I know how to do it, but let's see, it's a project URL here, and let's see if they have a documentation. So here we go, you .NET add that, you do some stuff, role assignments, you already did that, and then this is what you need to do. So what you need to do is you add this in your build-up on your configuration builder. So let's check this out. Where might this be? So we go to program, and we don't have a configuration builder, we have a web application builder. So what this builder allows you, it allows you to access the configuration manager, and then use, where is that? What are they using? Add Azure Key Vault. Is it here? Add Azure Key Vault. Here it is. So we access the already built configuration, which is not the builder, it's a manager now, but now we have the availability here for Azure Key Vault. And now what they give us is a bunch of overloads. And the one thing that we need is to be sure the Key Vault URI, which is the URI, and then the credentials with which to access this. And this gets, or will be a problem in a minute. But let's start with the URI. So this value, the URI itself, and if I look into my Bicep, this is exactly why I gave it out here as an output parameter. So I can simply copy it out here because this is a result of my Bicep. Here it is. That's why it was so nice to give it to you. So here we go. We have the URI, okay? The fly is running around and I hit my microphone, which is pretty bad. And then it asked us, yeah, you can do that. But the problem is now I need to know what token credential you want to use. And there is always the samples show you this here. Default Azure, what is it? New default, what was their sample? They do it here as well. New default Azure credential. Here we go. Let's do that. And let's see if we are missing a NuGet package. Probably, because they probably don't bring it with them. So let's do this. And let's see, are they bringing it? No. This is coming. And are they claiming this here somewhere? You need .NET secrets. And are they saying anywhere that in order to have this, you need Azure identity package? No. So probably they missed that. So let's see. This is identity. And this is, which one is this? Azure identity, I guess. So install this, because with this, I accept all of this. And now it brings you the import here. And now we are fine. Let me format my code a little bit so it looks a bit nicer. So here we go. So what this is the default way how they always show you should do that. Like do not even think about this way. So we need to talk about real quick about default Azure credential. Again, something where I could make a whole story out of it, but let's look it up. Default Azure credential, I think it had a pretty decent documentation. Let's watch this up. Yeah, right. So default Azure credential attempts to authenticate with each of these credentials in the following order. I cannot overstate this. In the following order, stopping when one provides a token. So what this is going to do is it looks into the environment. And what this means is you could set two environment variables like Azure Client ID and Azure Client Secret. And if it finds it, it tries to authorize with this. If it doesn't find it, it goes to workload identity and so on. And then the third option is managed identity credential. What this is this only works, as far as I understand it, if you're running on an Azure resource, because this is what can have, which can run a managed identity. It will find it and then use it if appropriate, and so on. And what it also tries out, if it doesn't find this one, then it goes through this line and it ends up with interactive browser credential in the worst case scenario, which is something you definitely don't want to happen. And it's not working on a non-interactive session like a web browser. So what I do, instead of allowing him to automatically step through, which probably is also not so performant, I tell him, no, go and use a managed identity credential. So, okay, cool. Now we know that we want that the key vault, if it's used, only gets used when it is on managed identity. So what I should do is, if I only can do that if the environment, if the host environment, do we have that here? Builder environment, here it is. So if we are running in development mode, which means, this means we run locally on our dev box. Okay, that's what this means, else. This else means, we don't know for sure, but we probably run in Azure, because we know that the only other place, if we're not running on our dev box, is Azure. So why I say that is this makes only sense if and only if we can rely on that there should be a managed identity credential, which we ensured with our Bicep. Otherwise, here on local, we cannot do that. We cannot simply copy this here and use it here as well. By the way, in fact, I will showcase you something, but in fact, this shouldn't be even here, and it should not use Key Vault at all. But for the sake of demonstration now, I will do something. So as you see in my PowerShell context, I am connected to the right subscription with my user. So what I can do now is I can look up here and say, where's Azure PowerShell credentials? So why not say, you know what? Let's use please, .NET. Look at the PowerShell credential, which is currently set up, like the AZ context credential, and use this. Okay, let's try that. Same URI, we will improve a little bit, but let's check if this works first and if we can run. So, good point is it starting yes or freaking no? So, first of all, it starts. Okay, nice. Then I can go to my scalar and try out if the request works, and no change here. So, there's a simple way to check this. If we would override myconfig C with another value, or let's say myconfig timeout, let's override this and set it to 010000. Okay, let's try this out. So, as I explained in my first part, let me open editor and get rid of this. So I explained that the key for that, for traversing this, is this. This actually is currently set up to be this value. Okay, nice. So that's a key value list. So the point is, what we should do in any key store, we need to go there. And now we should generate in the key vault a secret which is named this way. But this is not possible. He says, please provide a valid secret name. Secret names can only contain blah, 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 blah. So basically he tells colon is not a valid secret key part. You cannot use colon. Okay, great. So what now? So Microsoft probably had the same issue and they thought about it pretty hard. I don't know, it's probably security issues or whatever. So they thought, you know, a colon looks like just two things side by side. So let's flip it around like 90 degrees and make a dash dash. Because there's no point, there's no point character, they decided to switch over to dash dash. So that's what you need to do. You know, like it looks like some pair of eyes. If you look that way, they're visible. And then you flip your head 90 degrees to the right, and then you flip the colon with you. I cannot explain it better. So you need to know that. So this is your key then. And trust me, it will work, hopefully. Don't trust me too much, but it will work. And then let's take the value, just the string part of it, point it in and create the value, because everything is a string here. So let's check. We have myconfig dash dash instead of colon timeout. And now what we will do, we will simply rerun our app. And now let's check if this is changing. Fingers crossed. Oh, I just implemented the same value because I'm totally smart. I'm not, I know. So I just added the same thing. So let's change this, add a new version to it, and then add the secret. And no, this is hard to do. Let's do it in the editor. So we wanted 0100, right? Instead of 01, you know what I mean. So I screwed up a little bit, create. Let's restart our application again. So no auto refresh here. Restart your app and then retry this, and it's not working. Okay, so this is not doing it. Let me check why. First of all, if builder is developing, he goes there and says PowerShell credential. It should work, but it could be that the order of things is not quite clear. So let's check. Where are we overriding it? So let's check. We are doing, no, on environment variable, foo a. That's not the point. That's not any problem. So let's look into our app settings. Where are we? So we have my app timeout set to this. On development, we have no special timeout. So are the app settings overriding it? Question mark. Let's retry if now we still have a timeout. Let's see, send. No, it's the 0 value. That was not the point. So this one as well. This one not. So let's undo this again. This was not the culprit. Let me check real quick what the issue is here. So I think I found the culprit after some testing around. So I was totally confused, but let's start with my debugging. So what I did, I added a test variable here in the key vault without this funky syntax. I go to my program and I will set a breakpoint here and I debug. Where am I doing this? What I can do now is I can look into my configuration, again, first part of the video, and look for anything which is named test here and see if it is here. And long behold, there it is, test with value of test. And the provider is successfully Azure Key Vault configuration provider. So it arrived, okay? That's not the issue. So the issue is, as it turns out, if I look to my app settings, my path actually is my app settings and then timeout. And not what for reasons that I will never understand, what I did was I just had a wrong key. So let's do that correctly now, which means let's remove those two invalid secrets. Remove this as well, no problem at all. Generate the right one. You probably knew it all the time. And let me do 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0. And let's not set normally you could add a content type with quotient mark to say application JSON with quotation marks. I just hope that he can do that. Let's try it again. So let's remove the breakpoint here. And let's just simply hope that it works now. And that he's merging in 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 0. And it does it. So now, what I have, all of this configuration, so when you look at the first video, and let me maybe quickly repeat this in, I don't know where to do it. Is it in Paint? Probably it's going to be Paint because I just said goodbye to Visio finally. And I need to set up my Draw IO account so that I can really use it, whatever. So those are the configuration providers that we can use. And what we do is, where's text here? Here it is. So what we have is, we know that I think the app settings, oh, it's very good to read. So can I view and say grid lines? So the app settings.json and whatever it comes is somewhere here, I think. There was an order of things. I think app settings JSON. And then this gets overridden by, and so on and so on. And now what we learn is, one of the last things that comes in is Key Vault. So whatever you have in your file-based or environment-based chain here, if you override it here, it will kick out every value that has the same key here. The only difference is, instead of colon for the key, you use dash dash. That's what you need to know when you handle Key Vault. But from that moment on, the only thing that you need to understand is that when I change the value, new version, and now I do 0, 2, 0, 0, 0, 0, let's check, and let's see the new version, show secret, so that should be the version. So if I go here, it will not reload the value. So it's something where you can store it pretty secretly or very secretly in Azure. You can access it very secretly. If you do it right, and then you no longer have the issue. The only thing, if you need to change the value, you need to restart your app, right? So that's the only thing that is in the way, but this would be the same with app settings, and probably with environment variable change, it's also the same, because .NET, ASP.NET only reads that in on app startup, and then it does not reload it by default. Okay, so the first things first, what this means is Key Vault is a nice thing. You can not only use it for this scenario, in that special case, remember the dash dash syntax, but here you go. And it, by the way, it is very, very not pricey. I'm not going to say cheap, because to what will you compare it? It will surely cost money, but in the cent area per whatever, long range, because what you really get is hardware-based backups. The key for encryption is by default owned by Microsoft. So if you are in this high security area or high compliance governance area, you probably need to provide your custom keys and stuff like that. But you know, everything is better than storing it in your app settings or in your code. So as far as I'm concerned. Good. This in principle is Key Vault. I hope that explains it. We will keep that in a second because it plays a role with app configuration as well. But with that, I want to go over to app configuration now. That's what I want to do. So let's hop over to our code this work. Oh no. Excuse me. Before we do that, we need to get rid of this. So this is what we not are going to do. So what we really want to do is basically this. This is what I leave in. So basically, we probably run in Azure. Okay, that's what we say. So if we run in Azure, and only if we run in Azure, we should use the Key Vault, because all the other credentials are depending on you being logged in. And there's a better way to do that. Sorry for this tab. The better way to do that is where we go to our block samples configuration and then API source and API sample API. This thing, user secrets list. This is what we should use because I mistyped. I do it always. So here, this connection string is stored as a secret in your machine. And yes, every developer needs to set it with the command I showed you last time. And yes, this is true, but you only do it one time after you pulled your project. You just need to do it one time. And then from that on the machine, you have it. And yes, of course, the secret now is not stored very securely. If somebody can steal your account or log in as yourself on your machine, then that's it, he's through. But honestly, if he can do that, he also could do, for with high probability, he can run get AZ, Key Vault, secret, whatever. You know, because he's on your machine, right? Do we agree that he can take it from the history and just run this command again and whatever? He probably can do a lot of more stuff. It's not your problem if he can get access or hand on your actual terminal, your PC. And that is a sort of security. So that is why locally we never, in my company, we never run stuff against Azure resources or something in the cloud. We usually use Docker. So every one of us has a Docker image set running, container set, sorry, running, which is what we usually do. We have an Azure emulator, Azure Storage emulator. So if we want to access something that acts like Azure Storage, we use the Azure Write container. If we have SQL Server, which we have a lot, we use Server 2022 latest, which is a different image on macOS. We also use Mac, and there we have a different image, but this is running. And we have Redis, which we also use a lot as cache storage or NoSQL storage. So those things are emulated locally as containers on default ports. So I can totally use my SQL Management Studio and access a SQL Server on my machine, and that's where I develop against. So our connection strings are basically not a secret at all, because the password in there could be shared with everybody, because he needs to have access to our machine to actually access the database, okay? Anyways, what I wanted to say is this value totally needs to go to the configuration. It should be configurable. So we should go over and do something like, and there's this app configuration thingy, which is called Key Vault URI, let's say. So we have a section regarding app configuration, and then we have this, we put that here. And now what we can do in our app settings, we can totally say, you know what, take this from, let's go, builder, I think configuration, and then we totally can do that, which is app configuration Key Vault URI, I think, or, which is pretty important, just die. Throw new, what is that? Let's say, I think you should not use application exception, but whatever. Key Vault not configured in app config section, whatever. So let's simulate this. Is that running? So no warning code-wise. So let's go and see if the warning appears if we tell this a wrong key. So what we expect it to be to not even start the API. Locally it works, but in the cloud it shouldn't. So locally everything is fine. But then if we just simulate the cloud by switching this, so now we are the cloud because we are using this, this should throw an exception currently. And yeah, we have an exception. Okay, cool. I just fixed this to see if it will run in Azure. Let's do that. And now it should fail with managed identity credential because there is none. At this point, he should fail. He's trying hard probably. And he's not coming up, as you can see. He's trying. There's a timeout on how long it takes for him to understand I don't have a managed identity credential, sorry. And he will fail at some point in time because we are running locally. We should then re-enable this not here. And then this will be good. And this is not going to start. Here it is. And it says Azure Identity Credential Unavailable exception. Good exception. Managed Identity Credential Authentication Unavailable. Right. because we don't have a managed identity on our machine. So that's nice. So with this in place, let's see what is going on locally. Let's try this out. We are running, and now in the browser, let's refresh Scalar. Here we go. Let's try this request one time out. And now we have again 000100. But now what we should do, and we will try to do it as smooth as possible. I gave you now this machine in Azure, right? So what you basically can do, and before I do that, I should mention, you never should do that. It's good for the demo purpose, but what I will do is I will simply publish to Azure using a publish profile that I just created. And I tested it out, whatever. So let me show you how we can create this publish profile. Can I remove it again? More actions, delete. So usually what you will have is I delete the publish profile, so it's gone here. So what you do is right click in Visual Studio, publish, and what you should have, by the way, is you should be connected with your Azure identity to Visual Studio. And if you don't like that, I'm sorry. I think it still works, but it's not so convenient. Okay, we select Azure as a platform. And now what you need to select what kind of Azure service is it. You could look it up in Bicep, but I can tell you it's an Azure App Service on Windows. If you ask yourself, why the hell is he doing Windows? I can tell you, because we have very bad experience with Linux. It's usually faster and more lightweight, but if it comes to configuration of those things, especially with Bicep, this brings a lot of pain to us in our daily life. You cannot imagine how often we already tear down Linux app service plans and redeployed them, and then everything works just magically. But you know, like things like swapping slots and stuff like that. If you don't know what that is, it's okay, but I'm just like to explain everything for visitors who want to know what's going on, to be as deep as possible. Probably it's going to be a long video again, whatever. So that's why we keep it on Windows, because it feels like, I can prove that Microsoft knows Windows better in terms of Azure, and has more or sophisticated control over it in Azure. So that's why we use that. Okay, give me feedback if you like. So he's looking now for all the resources. He finds our API, right? It's a free tier, which means we don't have any deploy slots or something like that. We directly deploy, having an interaction during the deployment. And let's check, by the way, before we do that, what this site is currently displaying. So in Azure, usually you see this greeting page. Here it is. Your app is running after we deployed it and is waiting for content. And by the way, this is brutal. Let me switch the dark reader on. Sorry for blinding you. So here we go. So this is basically saying this is a brand new app, nothing deployed here. Cool. So we select this app and we don't select this, just do it as it is. And then we skip this step for API management. We don't even need this. And then we want to generate a pub XML file. So in other words, do it locally, which is the reason why I said never do this. So it's 2025 at the time of recording. We should all grow up and not do this in any scenario, unless you are making YouTube videos. That's maybe, or a demo at your company, whatever, and it's not paying off to build the whole CI/CD stuff. And now what you end up is you get this publish profile under your properties window here, under this thing, which you should never add to your Git. I think it's by default Git ignored. Okay, and then when this ran, you can simply say publish, and it should work. So it's using your credentials that are there, top right, your Azure Visual Studio credentials, if you will. About this, a lot of people are using it. I saw it, and you know who I mean. And now he claims that he is successfully published, which is nice. And now we can check this. Where is it? Our site, by refreshing it, and it's pretty slow. And now it changes to nothing can be found. But what we know is, by looking into our, he opens the browser here after the deployment. What we know, it should answer on /API/sample, right? So because we don't have any authorization on it, so let's try that out. And let's analyze what it says. Here we go. Pretty print this. It tells us something, and look it up. It says timeout is on 2 hours, not the same value as we have it. And The connection string is test server here. So because the environment is set to test. So let's check this. Is that true? So how can we check it? So let's go to Azure and see what even is the environment. It's running .NET 9, which is nice. Environment variables. Let's see. ASP.NET Core environment is set to test. That's what I did. Where did I do it? In my Bicep, where it belongs. So in the resources, in the web app, I just told him to set the app setting, which is exactly the array of environment variables, set this value to this. So if I change this to production and restart, he thinks we're running on production. So let's do that. Not here. It takes too long to yeah, we do it. No, we don't. Sorry. So let's edit this value and change it to production. Show it to me. It's not that secure, but cool that you have it. Production. Again, configuring an Azure web app is a science in itself. And then apply and then confirm. And I think it might even automatically restart the app. I'm not sure. Let's find out. So refresh the page, still test. Oh no, here we go. And you see it took a little bit longer and it's now on production and I have prod server. So here you see, this was test server before, now it's prod server. What you see here is that this technology, this year is taking place. We have test and then test server, and on production we have prod server. Let's change this to something fancy server. So let's do this and simply republish again. Just publish again. He will build and everything during the publish process. Let's do that. And you have even an output, I think. Where was that? Output, stack trace, package manager. There's an output somewhere. Okay, he's done. And now let's go to our window here and refresh this guy and do this. And now it's set to fancy server. That's what I meant. So this is taking from the app settings. Locally, again, just repetition. When we run locally, we override everything by using not the launch settings, but the user secrets. So you even can see it here, I think, from .NET. Right click, and then there's something like user secrets. Show user secrets, whatever. Where is that? And it shows you the file where it's stored, by the way. Where's user secrets? I need to scroll. That means I have a lot of stuff here. Manage user secrets. Here it is in the middle. So here you see the user secrets. This is a JSON file, and you can find out where this is stored and stuff like that. And this is my user secret. So the reason why I'm locally seeing this value is simply because locally here, this value overrides everything in my app settings. So I see this one. If I go and change this value or even delete it, let's try this. Oh, it's not even running. That is interesting. How could he do that? Okay, let's remove it here from the user secrets real quick. And let's restart my app and see now it should have, what should it tell us? It should say localhost. Should be the value on the connection string. Let's close some stuff. Not now, maybe later. So send, and now we're back to localhost. Fine. Now we go here, and I think it's not, and yeah, user secrets are memory-wise, so they automatically get reloaded. No, file-wise, which means he has a file watcher on it. So here we go. If we change the user secrets, it is immediately reflected here. So we have those changes. So that's how I override it. And because user secrets are down the line on applying 111, and then user secrets locally, this is pretty much the last line of defense. It's a memory file-based thing, not memory. And it overrides all the other settings. So, okay, nice. So bottom line here, if we stick to some rules, like if you are a local host, if you run on your dev box, don't do anything in Azure. Don't do that and rely on the availability. Why would you say? Another reason is offline working. So if you build your dev box setup correctly, in my opinion, you have no internet connection whatsoever for whatever reason, but you're traveling, and before you travel, you were thoughtful and you prepped your dev box so that you have the git pull, everything is there, so you have your branch there, and now you also prepped all your .NET user secrets before you went. Then you go and you can basically work because your databases are Docker based, as I have shown you here. Everything which is Storage persistency related is here in Docker, which should be possible nowadays to have it on your local machine. And everything which is Azure related, like secrets, is reflected using .NET user secrets. And here you go. That's it. And now we're talking here only about stuff runs in Azure. That's it. Okay. With that, let's add the last topic for today, which is Azure App Configuration and how this plays out for us. So let's switch over there. The name Azure App Configuration suggests this is a completely optimized service here, Azure App Configuration, which is specifically designed for guys like us. So they say, hey, you have an app, which means something you coded. And it doesn't matter for that sake if it's in which technology it is, because there are a lot of packages, like even for, I think for NPM, PHP, whatever, to access app configuration and to get information from it. Best working scenario is .NET, of course. We all know that. We are big fans of that. So it has a bunch of features, the Azure App Configuration. And I had a video about this. I just quickly highlight two things. So if you go to the Configuration Explorer, it shows you the configuration layer, which we will explore in a second. This is what we are interested in on that resource. And then we have another area, which is the feature manager, another big feature. So if you want to implement feature flags into your .NET app, or app at least, like what is feature flags? Like, let's say you deployed a feature which should be switchable on and off on different stages. Like, hey, I have a new version of my shopping cart on my iOS app or whatever, just to have an example. Hey, this is deployed already, but it should not be visible to most of the users. Only certain users should see it. So how do I do it? I just give them a special environment so that the configuration or whatever system kicks in and says, hey, I will look up in Azure App Configuration if this feature for that environment is switched on or off. And then I can hide it or show it depending on that, which makes deployment on bigger apps far more easier. Okay, with that out of the way, we don't want to look into feature management. We want, again, to look in Configuration Explorer, which has some things that we need to understand, but let's go step by step. So let's say we want to use this instead of the Key Vault. So let me, for the sake of simplicity, say, you know what, we do this and we extract this. Let's see, can I refactor that this way? Let's go. Refactor. Where is it? Let's see. Refactor. Where are you? Refactor. And then extract to method. So extract method. Right. So what I will do is use Key Vault. That's it. And he's providing the binder. And now we have a use Key Vault here, which is nice because now we can say, you know what? Use Azure App Config. Also giving him the builder, and that's it, because it's passed by reference, so we can just simply pass in this thing, and now we have this method to do the same. So let's say, I cannot remember, is app configure, it's not there. Azure App Configuration needs a special package, I think. So let's go. Manage NuGet packages, and let's search for app configuration. Something. No, Microsoft Azure App Configuration ASP.NET Core. This sounds promising. It's not outdated. Always, when you don't have the newest logo, always be aware that it's still Microsoft logo, but not an Azure package. So Azure has an A, and this is this, and what. So allows developers to use Azure App Configuration as a configuration source. Exactly what we want to do. So take it. By the way, package details. What are the dependencies? Configuration, Azure App Configuration, no dependency. I accept. So here we go, and this should bring us extension methods. So let's see, builder, configuration, add Azure App Configuration. Here we go. So now we have this extension method. Now we have Key Vault, App Configuration, and as I said last time, you can have more and more of that. So what it needs to have, what is going on? It wants to have connection strings. No, connection string. So it needs a string, or the so-called connection string. And then that's it. Okay, let's see first. So what is the connection string? It doesn't want a URI. So I think it's the endpoint. So let me look up my, here I have it, app config URI. I think that's all you need, this time without a slash. Let's see if it works. So let's do this one. Add Azure App Configuration. That should do the job, to be honest. Fly on my table. I hate him. So that should do the job. And because we want to use app configuration only, either Key Vault or app configuration, we just comment out, or I will comment out Key Vault. If you take the source code, which will be available to you, you simply do your thing. And because this is bad style again, right? We should do the same here. So let's add app configuration and then go here and say, you know what? Endpoint, which tells us this is, I think, the international shortcut for we want to use app configuration. So this is what I brought up, but app configuration endpoint, I think that's the official thing. So let's go here and let's say, you know what, this would be nice, not in URI, but this maybe, let's do it, app configuration endpoint. Here we go. So, and then app configuration, app config, what is it? Not in app config. Yeah. In not configured. I think that would be better. And then not configured here as well. Okay, now we know what's happening on server side. So again, let's do that. Build a add Azure App Configuration. And again, I think it needs, doesn't it need property sources? I don't know, where is my configuration hook at Azure App Configuration? And let me quickly look it up in the, probably in the, I forgot how to do it, no problem at all. Manage NuGet packages, always a good idea to go to the project site. Installed packages, and I need to update those, by the way. Where's app configuration? Here, and let's see what they have to say. This is NuGet, right? Oh. If this package has a back, okay, I never saw this. Interesting. So that's that. And do they have, here. So let's look what they have to say. Azure App Configuration, blah, 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 blah. Module, do we have samples? Doesn't look like. I have samples for sure. Documentation. What about this? App configuration. Let's see how good this works for a beginner. Okay, good. .NET, ASP.NET, Azure App Configuration. Let's see what sample you can find. Probably you find, like, no, Coding Freaks is not on page 1. Quick start, why not? So you can see we will talk about this. We have Azure Identity. Here they mention it, you need it, because what I'm looking for is, here we go. Oh, you can pass in the options right there. So you say that, and then they say connect. Nice. So let's do that. So I did it wrong, and it's always same. App config options moves to this and that, and then app config options connect. This is what we need to do. And here we go. We have, this is our, I think this is our endpoint. And now we can say new managed identity credential. Is it correct? Connect this with this. And it needs to be in URI again. Okay, gotcha. New URI this, ending there. Excuse me for jumping around like an idiot. And now it's fine. Let's do this correctly and put a semicolon here and let's look. So this is odd. And now this is the default configuration. So again, it looks very similar to this one. So we just say add Azure Key Vault, but this time we just add Azure App Configuration. It's now having this options object that we put in, and this is not an option. This is probably, yeah, it is options. And then we can tell them how to connect to the app config to use this URL or throw an exception. It needs to be in URI and then also use managed identity credential. So with that in place, what we can do is we leave that in place and we just do the simple test, go to the app configuration and add a secret. So what can we do? We add a key value. And now let's say, what do we want to change? Which value? Let's say again, the timeout, right? So the timeout was the key value, this, But this time, because app configuration is not limited, again, switch back to colon, okay? No problem. Let's set it to 3 instead of 2, so we can easily detect this. And now you have the possibility to add labels. We talk about this in a second, but let's apply this. Here we go. This is now available. And now let's go and publish our app. Because it's pretty quick to publish it. Where are you? Here on the project. To understand how that works. And for later debugging, we probably can do it locally as well. I will see. Okay, so let's do that. Let's have a sip of coffee here. Always healthy. Stay healthy. That's what I say. It's water, isn't it? Or based on, actually. So I get my daily dose. Anyways, that's not what I'm going to talk about. Let's go to set. Let's go to, do I have this tab open? I have. Refresh this guy. Do this. And now what's going on? We have 3 hours running. Okay, so it works. And now what happens if we change this value in our app configuration? If we go here, and we can, by the way, show the values. Here it is. And now we can right click and edit this thing. And then say, what about 10 seconds here? Apply. I do that. And I refresh this one. And it still does not have the 10 seconds. Reason is, we need to configure the auto reload, which is now available because app configuration has this feature available to automatically refresh your configuration, but we need to do that inside of our configuration. So app configuration connect, and then app configuration options, configure refresh. Here it is. So we can do that. So let's configure the refresh, and it has some refresh options. Here we go. And the refresh options give us options for refresh. So first of all, the first thing you do is you need to tell him what is his trigger to refresh. So what it means is you have to imagine that this thing looks basically into it. It polls. I think it polls. We come to that in a second. Where's my browser? It looks into this store. And now it has one or more settings here right now. And what it does or will do, it will react on certain changes. So you have the choice either to add something which is, I think it's called a sentinel or something like that. So what you can do is you add a special key, which is called the sentinel, let's say, and give it a value of 1. Okay, so here we go. So now we have this useless value, which also will be injected, but you use it as your registration filter. So let's go. Let's say refresh option register, and he wants a string, which is our sentinel. And then if this sentinel kicks in, we want him to refresh all values that he got from the app configuration. So kicks in means this gives us now a nice opportunity. Let's publish this and let's try this out. Again, publish this version and let's debug it in Azure. I know it's a little bit tedious, but you know what I mean. It's a clean way to do it, and it's pretty fast. It is this way of doing it. Again, fast means bad. So you need to suffer in order to have good results. This is the formula how you work in a cloud. If you don't suffer, you probably do it wrong. Okay, so he opens up, should be fine. So now let's check in our browser session here. So we have this value, and now let's go. And no, we need to refresh because he has 10 seconds now, I guess. Yeah, he read it in. And now let's change the value here directly, right? Like we did before. Let's change it to 20 seconds, let's say. So 20 seconds, apply, refresh this, nothing happened. If we now go over and change the Sentinel to version 2, we just count up. What happens here? I'm not sure. So he still doesn't have it. Let's give him some time. And I might have sucked because I didn't provide the minimum amount of time that he should do on refresh. He is not doing it immediately. He has some timeout, I think. Let's check this out before I go further. Let's go to program. And then I think there is set refresh interval. And this one's a time span from, let's do it extremely, which is probably not good, from seconds 10. So even words 5. So 5 seconds refresh interval here, which is not good, but it helps us on our demo. I will talk about this. Publish this again and to be able to try it out again. So let's wait it out. He should be quick. Again, if you don't suffer, you suck. Good formula. I should make a t-shirt out of this and make an Azure logo on it. Anyways, so refresh this, 20 seconds, fine. Let's go and change this value and go to 30 seconds. Okay, 40, why not? We changed it, refresh this, pretty print, nothing. Go to the Sentinel, edit the value and change it to free, version 3 if you will, and then refresh this, pretty print, still 20. Not good. It should be, let's wait the 5 seconds, and it's not doing it. Why is he not doing it? What did I do wrong? I'm pretty sure I did it correctly. Again, I suck. Probably I'm doing something right because I suck. Sentinel, let's do the simple stuff. Register on Sentinel, should be okay. And then when Sentinel changes, I want you to refresh. Nothing. Okay, so Sentinel has changed. And now we are on 40 seconds. So he should reload for sure. So let's check the documentation because maybe I forgot something. Connect to this. Read from App Configuration. Yes, we know how to do that. We know how to do this. And then next steps, clean up, build, read from App Configuration. Is there anything with refresh? Enable dynamic configuration. Why is it there? Register all. Okay, so we don't even care. And maybe I did this wrong. Maybe I did it wrong, but we'll see. Little configure, and then where is use Azure App Configuration? I gotcha. Yes, thank you. There's also an example. Logging and monitoring. Interesting. So where is request data? He says reload configuration if any selected key values have changed. Okay, so select the key values. That is interesting. Maybe we are missing just one thing, which is, where is he saying it? Select on the thing, app configuration, select, and then I think there was a key filter any. Key filter, yeah, there is this guy. So this is like star or anything, but I don't like strings. So I think I said, hey, select everything, but register on Sentinel. Let's try this now. Bear with me, because probably you would have the same struggle when you try to understand it. So what we say is, and I wanted to do this later, but anyways, what we say is, hey, app configuration.net. Look, there is this Azure App Configuration. And what I'm telling you here with select any is, I'm interested in all the key value pairs that you have. All of them. Okay, so that's what I explicitly say. I think it's the default option, but maybe without a select, the configure refresh is not working. We will see. It's not our last try, probably. Let's try. So refresh this. It probably goes to 40 now. Right, now we can go back because I run out of samples because I'm not very creative here. 20 again. So 20 again. Refresh this. Nothing happened, which is expected. Edit the Sentinel. And switch back to version 4, if you will, apply. And now let's see if he goes back to no, no, and no. Let's give him some tries. And no, it should be pretty immediate. I hate him. So 340. So now I'm going to, you know what? Never mind. Let's ignore the Sentinel. Let's go the refresh options with all of them, like they did in the example. Register all, which has no key. It has this one. I think register all. What is going on? It has nothing. And then set refresh interval to 5 seconds as well. Simply do this and that. So now we don't even care about this Sentinel. So we will check this out in a second. I'll probably do something wrong. And maybe in the other video, I already figured it out, we will see 5 seconds and on any change. So we don't even need a sentinel anymore. Publish. And by the way, if you think that local debugging is easier than that, it is actually not, at least not for me, because I didn't figure out a way yet how to hook into this process and get events from this. Probably possible, but I wasn't that interested because normally in Azure I log everything regardless. So let's see, 20 seconds now. Yes, change the value. Now we just need, the theory is we need to change it here to 35. I am more creative than I thought. And we hope that at some level, somewhere in 5 seconds, he will reload this and he's not freaking doing it. And this is strange. And again, I might need to pause the video. But it's good that you saw the struggle, because this way you probably understand it better, but you're also nerfed. So let me pause the video real quick and come back when I got the solution. Hey guys, I'm back. Few things happened. First, I killed one of the flies, which is good. Second, I detected how dumb I really are, because I always tend to forget when I do this what to do. So it was clear that it was about me. So I showed you how to add this to the configuration system. But actually what this is only doing, and now I can explain it to you, because it's easy now to explain, is, listen, please initially read or sync those configuration values in, which is the same as what happened with Key Vault. And then we did this config refresher with register all, which and now I go back to 5 seconds, whatever. Okay. But then what needs to be there in order for this happening in .NET is two things. First of all, you additionally need to add the app configuration to the DI, which is a prerequisite. So not only do you add it to the configuration system, but you also need to add it to the DI. And last but not least, you need to integrate the middleware to be able to actually have something which is, before some options are injected into those requests, that it actually handled the refreshment correctly. So let's try it out now again. So let me, because I tested locally and all that, so now let's do a final deployment and finally test what we have. So now we did it so often that you guys probably get bored of it, which is actually good. Because again, I try to see the bright side of my failures, which is currently that we are following kind of one of the key cornerstones of DevOps, which means get bored of something and then you get good at it, see how good it works. So now it's not even starting anymore. So what did I do wrong? Yeah, I know what I did. My debugging used, of course, not the managed identity, but the PowerShell credential. So see, and you get better and better, and you need to click like a panic bunny, which usually means to ordinary people that you know what you're doing, but actually you're not. So that's how you can see I'm working. So here you go. We have 38 seconds. Let's change this real quick. It matches. Let's edit the value to, I don't know, 55, just because it looks different. And then refresh this, and we are still here, but we should, now we have a new value, 55. Finally, guys, you cannot see it in my tiny circle, but I'm raising my hands in victory. So that means now we can change this value. Let's try the Sentinel again in order to explain what this is. Okay, cool. So let's go here and let's say, you know what? Let's comment this out and comment this in. So now we're registering only the Sentinel, and then we set the same refresh interval, but now change, oh no, not play. Publish is the man of the hour. Publish. Here you go. Wait until Firefox, Chrome is jumping. And it is here, right? I could see it, just read it and remember. The problem is I actually don't do that so much currently because we have a library which does it, which is the curse of libraries because you forget what they do. So now we have it, 30055. Let's maybe go to my browser here. Let's jump out of it and change it here. Can I do that? Put that to the side. And then put this to the other side. I think it might be better to do it this way. Oh, the UI is not giving me. Okay, cool. So now let's change the timeout here to a different value. Let's say 8 hours and 0. And then apply. And it should not update. Let's give him some time to prove that he's not updating inside of those 5-second maximum wait time, whatever. So now when I change the Sentinel also to 5, and then I refresh, it should, there it is. So why is this important? Normally, you have more than just one app setting here. So imagine if you are about to change those values, like you time out and then you change the next one, which is a step-by-step experience in the Azure Portal. But now what could happen is, this is just one example where Sentinel is good. Your whole configuration is updated immediately, or at least inside of those 5 seconds or whatever you set up, it's updated, but you're not ready editing it. So one reason to not do it. So in other words, you need control using the Sentinel, whatever you name it. This gives you control to say, okay, just calmly prepare everything you need here. And then when you're ready, it's the Sentinel, upgrading the Sentinel or changing the value. It's like the apply it now button. Because you know that as soon as the Sentinel is hit, all your apps are seeing this value, refreshing itself, and that is good. So what you also need then to consider, and I told you that while I did it, this 5-second delay is not good because it says set refresh interval, default is 30 seconds. So what it does, it sets the minimum time interval between consecutive refresh operations for the registered key values. So it's kind of the minimum time interval. Okay, so it's the lower bound. So it must be every 5 seconds. But this is just us telling him, don't be slower than. Do it explicitly and then see if it gets worse. And I think it's not. 30 seconds is what we use as well. And it's pretty instant, but not forces him to do it too often, because the minimum does not say that he's not doing it more often or that you don't do it on an appropriate thing, because a 30-second time interval, depending on the time you started your app and when this whole process started, could mean everything between the seconds 1, 2, or 0 to 30. So that means doing it too often brings a hell out of load to every component implemented there. So let's refresh this. Nice. It's still there. Let's edit the value to something like, I don't know, 10 hours. Why not? Double digits, always good. Apply this. No change should happen. And then the interesting thing is when the Sentinel is changed to 6, apply this. How fast? So this is 8. This is 10. You see, it's fast enough, even on 30 seconds, because it does not say, I will always wait 30 seconds. It means that it's the minimum internal interval, which I do between calls in order to sync myself. This is why I guess that this is polling and not reacting. There's no hook that app configuration sends out, but this is totally coming from your app. So cool. And the thing that I definitely suggest to you, but this is not all. So now we need to talk about labels. So first of all, in order to get some information about the view, you can do the non-hierarchical view, and then you see how the key values look. Actually, why is it gray? Okay, this is like the key value look on it. We have no labels. You will see in a minute what these labels mean. Okay, nice. And then you have the hierarchical view, which just separates on colons. Also nice. So let's think about this now from an architecture perspective. What do? Do I use my non-setup draw? Maybe let me go away to not bother you with this. So actually, we actually have something to draw. Let me figure out how to do it, because I'm an idiot, as I said multiple times today. And let me bring up, create new diagram, blank. Here we go. You know what? Don't save it. Do I need to save it? Oh, I need to save it. Coding freaks, whatever. He always wants to save it. Okay, nice. So here we go. Draw.io is up and running. So let's talk infrastructure. What I mean by that is, okay, let's consider you have web apps. Actually, Azure App Service. I think it's there right away. So that's why I'm switching, by the way, from Visio, because it's a shame to say, but I think Microsoft is not caring about Visio so much anymore. other story, not what I want to talk about. So let's say you have integration. We do it this way. You can blame me for that, but we have stages, right? We have integration stage, same app, multiple stages. Test stage and production. Okay, nice. So now your problem comes into place. You want, as I said in the first time, your app, which is deployed here. Can we have a package icon? Your app, which is this thingy, which was built by the pipeline, right? And this is deployed to those using the pipelines. Doesn't matter. Can I not? What the heck is going on? I just want, okay, give me this. Thank you. So, okay, this thing gets deployed using your CI pipeline. The same artifact is deployed here and just needs to behave differently. And this is the task of configuration system to give you awareness of where you're running using the environment and stuff like that, and all techniques like the ASP.NET Core environment magic variable, whatever. So you know where you're running. The app knows, okay, I'm running here, here, or here. And depending on that, I need to behave differently. For instance, simple thing, I have this, Azure SQL database. Here you go. Let's do this one. So I have 3 databases, different databases with different connection strings. So now those values of how to connect should be restricted so that this API is only connecting. What is happening? This API is only connecting to this. Okay, why can I not do this? Okay, I will do it now. Here you go. So it should connect to this, but never the F to this. This is red. This, no, don't do that. This is bad, okay? In no circumstance. Okay, cool. Instead, this goes to this and so on. So how does it know where to go? So app configuration, app config files, bad idea, because then it will be part of your source code, right? If it's there. So not good. Environment variables could be a thing. So you could go here to Azure and you can totally go to, where is it? The app itself. Here we go. And what we can do here, because now we understand the configuration system, no problem. We can add an environment variable, call it connection strings.mydb, and then give it any connection string here. And as you might know, this is not very secure, right? Everyone can read it. But what you could do here is, and I'm not sure if this is possible in the editor, but it's definitely possible in Bicep. You can add, if you didn't know, you can add here a key which comes from a key vault. This is possible. Problem being still that if you put it in an environment variable, it requires a restart of the app in order to take effect. So, and it's pretty hard to, maintain because you need pretty high rights to go to environment settings. I think you need to be contributor on this app. Whereas this service here allows you, you know what? You cannot change any infrastructure. That's not your job. Your job is to groom kind of the configurations of this. You don't need to create if you have the right roles like app configuration data reader and app configuration data whatever, you can totally access this section and change values without needing to deploy new environment variables, which is an easy step. But now the question is, how can I not be forced to have with this deployment? And that's the trick of app configuration. Azure App Config. So what I don't want is, I don't want to have 3 freaking app configurations per stage. Okay, I don't want that. This makes no sense, because now if I want to change, first of all, it's costly. Then if I want to change something, I need to go to the right app configuration, change it. It's hard to do. So I would maybe have 1 app configuration per application, which is usually the case because you are confining your application inside of a subscription and then you give rights on that. This is called a landing zone. So you have 1 app configuration for all of those. Let's stick with this plan. And let's say the app configuration here, this one, is for every current and future stage which runs in the cloud, like in test and prod. So how can we tell the settings that this timeout of 10 minutes should be the timeout for the test stage, which we currently are running? So let's go and look it up. So no chance of later doing it because the magic thing is the label. Okay, that's the magic thing where you can do that. So I show you how. So let's copy this app setting, delete it because you can only define the label on startup, and then create a new one, which is the same thing. And then let's give it, I don't know, 1200, but only on environment, let's say test. This is the key that we add. Nice. Let's copy this again. And then what we can do is we add a new value and we say, you know what? Can we add a new value? Add value, add key vault, add AI, create from existing. Right, create from existing. But this time I tell him production. And on production, it should have, I don't know, for whatever reason, 2 minutes. What is it? Hours. So now it changes here the view because it says, well, you have the same key, my settings : timeout. This key cannot change. If this key would have changed, it would mean that it cannot be merged correctly into our configuration, right? This is logical. So it has 2 different values, and the way we are differentiating between those is the environment test thingy. Okay, nice. This is not bad. Good idea. What we can now do in code pretty easily, because .NET is so nice to us, we can add an additional key filter here, and we can say, listen, I'm interested again in any key, but only if the label, which is this guy, is environment : and then my builder environment name. So I need to explain that probably. Okay, so I have 2 key filters. Okay, I have key filter any without a label, and I have key filter any with a label. So I want this to be applied, both of them. And maybe I want to apply them this way because it's more logical, from special to general. So what does that mean? So let's look it up maybe in a drawing again. It's hard to explain. I'm trying my best. Let's see. So if, let's say, I have one thing, which is a key value, which is, say, let's say connection strings, and I'm saying A, but this guy is without any key, and then I have connection strings A with another value. But this time, unsafe changes, database is read-only. Nice. Good that I stored it, whatever. And this time I give it a label. So label is like a tag on it, okay? So, and I say environment, test. So what does it mean if I don't run on test currently, if my .NET environment is not test? So he looks up the store, and what this key filter does, which we currently say, the first one says, listen, I'm interested in any key which has exactly this thing, and additionally I'm interested in any key which has no label applied to it. So like label string empty. So what it means is, okay, it looks up and says, okay, connection string, if I'm, let's say, on production, I see a connection string A which has no label at all. So let's put in a dash for no label, like that we see it. So he says, interesting, this must be a value which is okay for me because I want to see all non-labeled things. Okay, take it. And then I want to see everything that is environment : production labeled, which is not this one, right? This is a different one. This is environment test. It doesn't matter how you name it, as long as as long as the setting in your app configuration here, whatever you have convention here, like this string is optional. I can name it John : production. It doesn't matter. It's just a good convention. So, but this string needs to match whatever you set up in your environment variable on your web app, which is exactly the same string that you have in your Bicep or wherever you have it. So it needs to match your stage names. However, now this means that on production, he would have 2 hours. On test, he will have 12 hours. But now we are lacking any good example for this key filter, right? If I deploy this now in order to play around, we have two key filters. First of all, my stage name, which happens to be test on the Azure App Service, and then anything else. Everything which is not labeled. I'm interested in those things. Nice. So let's go there and try that out. So let's go and actually look in what we have. So what do we have here? We have another thing, which is, for instance, logging section key, not interesting, connection string. Yeah, why not? DB connection string. This is connection strings, and then, what was it? Connection strings, mydb. And currently on test, this is saying, you know what, test server, which is, oh, we are on production because we screwed. Let me change this back to test so it actually works correctly. Where am I? Got lost. Okay, Coding Freaks test, go to the API, go to the environment variables and change the variable that we have. We have only one variable, which is nice. And then let's edit this value and take it back to test. Let's double check here. Yeah, that should be it because it matches my thing. Apply this, confirm. We know that this will reload the app when it's done. So let's check if it did it correctly. So let's check here and it should be back on test after some thinking because it's an, you know, it's a low level free tier, but it's back. So it now has 000100. Interesting. And it has a test server connection string. Interesting. Where does this value come from? Well, easy. When we go now to our app configuration and go to Configuration Explorer, it tells us that it's only on test. It's 12 hours. No. Oh, did I deploy that? Yeah, I did, right? So key filter is environment test, and it should take in the value. Did I really deploy it? Environment is test. This is good. And this is at 001. Did I or did I not deploy? I am not sure. Let's publish this guy. I think I did not. Because what he's showing right now is he says, I'm looking for anything which has no label. And there is no setting with no label anymore. That is why he's falling back to the 00100, which comes from the app settings, which can get confusing, right? So you're right if you're confused. As I said, if it's hard, it's probably correct. So let's see. There you go. Refresh this one. So we are here. Not right. Let me see. 0001. Why is it taking this guy in? Let's see. We have a key filter. Did I mess it up in some way? Let's do the key filter any on that. And then the other one. Maybe order matters here. I'm not even sure. Environment and then builder environment name. Is that even correct? So can I or can I not try this out? Let's see. Can I see what this is going to be? Because I'm not sure if I messed it up. Let's do here. We can test it. var test equals this. And then give me a breakpoint here. And let's see if this makes sense. Environment development. Looks pretty good. Pretty damn good to me. And this is okay. So it should be okay. So let's publish this now. Let's struggle a little bit together. I will put in on the timeline, try to put in stuff where the confusion is over and then mark everything with confusion in it. Like that you can skip if you want to. I try my best. Draw all, ignore. Okay, what do we have here? We have, again, this is not the value it should be. So I probably messed something out in the timeout section while I was creating it. Let's go concentrated to what I did. I just see it. There's a character here. This is copy paste. Okay, this happens a lot. Let's go to edit. This is see this little, where is it? Can I zoom here? I can. See this here? This is not good. This tells us that there's an empty or space character. That's all that happens. So let me see if I can prove that. So we need to delete everything. Again, delete. Yes. Delete. So I screwed up. create a new key value, be sure that there's nothing in front. It's very hard. And then what do we say? Let's say 10 hours for prod. No, it was 10 hours for test. Let's go. Do you have environment? Don't screw it up. Don't screw up. Test. Is this one? Let's see. No spaces here. No spaces there. Looks good. Apply. Good. Let's duplicate this guy. Create from existing. Same value, but now 2 hours. I think that was the deal for production. Everything that could go wrong went wrong. So now, let's see, is he able to auto-reload this? I'm not even sure. If it wasn't there, no, it's not. Let me restart real quick by just deploying again. That's the easiest way to restart because it's faster than even restarting in the portal, which also is something we need to think about a little bit more. But now what I expect to be is 10 hours on test, so it should be 10 hours right away. 10 hours, there we go, finally. So we have 10 hours now because we filtered on the stage. So if I change now the value for test here, this one, the 10 hours, it should update. So 10 hours and for whatever reason, 50 seconds. Apply, and then obviously updates the Sentinel. And here we go, apply, and then go over, hop over to the other browser. Where is it? Refresh the guy. And here we have nothing. And here we have 50 seconds. Now we did it. We didn't change it for the production stage, which I can't prove right now. You can test it out by just deploying 2 of those in your test. But this is how you get control. And it gets even better. You can do another thing. Let's say you add another one. You do it differently, which I don't suggest, but hey, who I am. This is again my app settings. Let's say connection strings. Let's do this. My DB. And let's say you go to whatever, 1, 2, 3, 4, it doesn't matter. And now what you do is my app ID environment production. So now with this in place, when you do that, what you in theory can do is you can use when you go ahead and you have where is here? This is the label my app ID. And then you can have another app ID. So you can duplicate it, create from existing, and then you simply say my other app, which is another project. Again, I don't recommend this. I'm just saying that this is possible. So now you have in the hierarchy view, I think it even separator is colon. Okay, apply. So now what you can see in this hierarchical view, that the connection strings, there are different connection strings for different apps on production. What this means is, in theory, we can even have a higher level app configuration, which is there for another app. And simply what you need to do in order to make this happen so that apps don't mix it together is you take this system and you add, instead of environment blah blah, you just add whatever, my app blah blah blah. This is your filter. And then you don't use any because you say this is dangerous, or you use it because you say if somebody is so dumb to don't put a label in, that probably means it's valid for everyone. Like whatever, what could it be? What could I do? I don't recommend it, but probably this is email, whatever. This is, or no, company, copyright, whatever. And then this is 2024 and no label. So here we go. Now, if somebody wants to take out the copyright value for the website, whatever, he just goes every app because no label is here, and we configured the app to accept values which have no label. This is how you need to think about it. Now, every app can take the 2024 5 value, and you just need to change it once next year into 2026 to change the copyright down on their websites. It will automatically update in theory, and you don't need to do that for every app, or in terms you do it in every app's configuration. So That's the idea, right? But I don't recommend doing this high level thing. Again, don't do that. Do this. This is the recommended thing because what you break here is the principle of isolation. So what really you should think about to back, you should isolate everything that is in one app, in one box. By the way, we call this box usually a subscription. And there are even guys who tell you, you know what? No. This is the soft way to do it. What you actually should do is you should actually separate each stage in a subscription. So now it gets a little bit weird. So you should do it this way. Bring this to back. Okay, do it. So now this is number one. All stages one subscription. By the way, that's what we do. But then there is this one, which says, no. This gives you plus points because now the prod database, which is probably your most important one, is not accessible by guys who have access to the integration. We actually do this with RBAC because we have automation running. So if you are in the same subscription, but you run on this resource group or this resource group, that doesn't mean that you have rights on this resource group as well. Depending on what security concept you have, you can isolate different ways. Surely this, if you are a big company, you should, or if you have, this is your main job, you're not a developer, it's a main job, you maybe separate every stage in a subscription. I don't even know, to be honest. I think then what your main concern is, by the way, that the service principal, which should be able to give this access to that, now they live in two subscriptions. Can you see that? If you don't want to copy over, this lives in one subscription and then every stage in its own subscription. So what that means is, in order, this here needs a service principal, which is something like this. This is the service principal. This service principal needs to have the right scope, probably on a management group, to access app configuration, which is a higher level thing. This is far deeper than I ever even wanted to go, to be honest. But it's important considerations. If you're interested in that, maybe a third part needs to be then deep diving into architectures like this. Maybe you're interested in that. The main point here, I will share my code here with whatever works now, and we're using the Sentinel for reasons with a time span of 30 seconds. You can select if you want to do Key Vault or app config. Everything is possible using the Bicep that I give with that to you. Remember that if you want to deploy, you need to publish update for yourself. I have some notes in the README there so that it helps you out. If you have questions, don't hesitate to comment. And with that, I think we are good with this configuration thing. So what I wanted to show here, and which is sometimes bringing me to weird scenarios because I forget things. But what I wanted to show is, as a .NET developer at least, because everything is so nicely built into iConfiguration. But as a .NET developer, you can pretty good heavy rely on what Microsoft did there in terms of the additional NuGet packages, which like feels like so natural to you because you just have this iConfiguration, which you pass on, and this iOptions. You have to remember what I said in the last time about stuff like iOptions snapshot. So look up this video, because now in order to have a reloadable thing, you cannot pass in iOptions interface. If you don't know what it means, you missed the first video. So you need iOptions snapshot at least. So in order to have, not at least, you need iOptions snapshot. And that means you need to pass in iOptions snapshot. Otherwise it's not reloading, right? Stuff like that. So watch the first video and then look the source code. You will see it. Dependency injection is there in place, and it uses iOptions snapshot all over the place. So you should definitely do that. If you want more content on that, let me know in the comment section. And besides of that, thanks for watching. Sorry for the long video, but see you next time.